Spiritual community, please welcome Jen Grant.
Good morning, Sat Nam. I am delighted to be with you this morning, and you can already hear the passion coming through. I'm just going to take a breath in grace and gratitude for all of you. Thank you for being here, Sat Nam. It's a true pleasure to be with you. I'm going to share a quote with you by physician Dean Ornish. The need for connection and community is primal, as fundamental as the need for air, water, and food. The need for connection and community is primal, as fundamental as the need for air, water, and food. Community, primal, fundamental, necessary. Our theme for the month of November is the power of community. And as I started digging into this theme, it doesn't take very long to notice that there are a lot of definitions and a lot of thinking behind what community actually is. I was speaking to someone this week about it, and she told me that very strongly, community is only the place in which you live. And I was speaking to someone just a couple short hours after that made a point very clear that to her, one of the strongest communities that she's part of is a Facebook community that she has never met a soul but feels more connected to them than in the community in which she lives. So who is right? What I've come to decide is that they're both right. Ultimately, it's what you decide, what we decide together, what the community that you are part of decides. But I've taken all of those definitions and I've come up with the two that seem the most common. So just to put some context around what we're talking about, community can be defined first as a group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. And the second one is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals, which the second one doesn't necessarily mean location, right? It can mean, where do we find our people? Where do we feel like we are a part of something bigger and greater than us? I'm wondering, just by a show of hands, how many of you in the room would say that you live within a 5 to 10 minute radius of Lake Harriet spiritual community? So maybe a third of you. And the rest of you are beyond that, and yet here we all sit together in community. I think Lake Harriet Spiritual Community is such a beautiful example of what the power of community is. I've met people here that have been coming here and participating in this amazing space for over 20 years. And then I've met people that are just walking in the door for the first time today or for the first time in the last couple of months. And yet this is an opportunity for us to come together and feel at home. In thinking about today, I wanted to put my own lens on what the power of community means. And for me, as a student and a teacher of A Course in Miracles, as a student and a teacher of Kundalini Yoga, and alongside my mission to lead with love, my lens is love. My lens is this divine truth, this core, this essence. In Kundalini Yoga, we call that Sat Nam. Our Sat Nam, the depth of who we are, if we peel away the layers of everything that we are, our Sat Nam is our divine truth. And that divine truth, that core of who we are, is love. And A Course in Miracles talks very clearly about this as well, that our responsibility is to embrace love and return to love. The Course talks about love is the way. A miracle is just a shift in perception from fear to love. And as my mission is to lead with love, it's my job, hopefully 24/7. My husband can attest that it's not always 24/7. But I do my best to always choose to lead with love and to show up from a place of love. So in thinking about the power of community, I wanted to look at that through the lens of love. How would love talk about community. And if we break down the word community, I'm hoping that this will blow your minds the way that it blew mine when I made this realization. If we break down the word community, we get the root word common, and the suffix is unity. May God bless you. Common can be defined as belonging to or shared by, as in common space, common walls, common room. Belonging to or shared by is common. The suffix word unity means oneness, belonging to oneness, shared oneness. And when I realized that, I had to catch my breath. Community itself says that we belong to oneness. We are sharing oneness. That is what community says. And I love that. I love how so poignant and simple and powerful that is. Can you imagine a world if we were all taught from very young age the true meaning of community? I guarantee we wouldn't be in the situation we're often in now. And yet, going back to A Course in Miracles, everything is perfect because it's our responsibility to return to that space. That's what we're here to do. We're here to remember that community and return back to this place of sharing oneness, belonging to oneness. Author Y. Berg says, a true community is not just about being geographically close to someone or part of the same social web network. It's about feeling connected and responsible for what happens. Humanity is our ultimate community, and everyone plays a crucial role. Humanity as our ultimate community. And I think the word itself speaks to that. And yet how far we have come from that truth. How far we have wavered from humanity as our ultimate and primary community. But we can return to that. I truly believe we can return to that. With humanity as our ultimate community, I want you to picture a bicycle tire. At the center of that bicycle tire is where all of the spokes come together. And maybe you've heard this analogy before. All of the spokes come together at the center of that bicycle tire. That is our humanity. That is our community. Our primary community of humanity is at the center of that bicycle tire. It's the shared oneness, the belonging to oneness. We all are the same. Have you seen those pictures where the people are behind the black curtain and all you can see is the X-ray through, and all you see is skeletons? You just see the skeletons on the front, and as they come from behind the back, they look very different. Different shapes, sizes, colors, heights, widths, everything, totally different. And yet, when we look at the core of who we truly are, when we look at the depth and the truth and the divine and the Satnam of our essence, it's the same. It's love. It's the center of that bicycle tire. But what has happened as we've come into this physical world, our separateness comes into play. And we start to identify with that separateness. We start to identify with how we are different rather than how we are truly connected. And that's where you look on the edge of the bicycle tire. The spokes all come out, and they're separate from one another, no longer identifying with that center, that truth of who they are. And most of the time, for most of us, we live our life on the edge of that bicycle tire. And I believe it's through what I'm going to call today subset communities that we are then able to hopefully make our way back to that center, that humanity community. Because ultimately, getting back to that center, that knowing our humanity is our true community, that's where we can feel the most love. That's where we can feel the most joy. But let's be honest, we live in a world on the edge of the bicycle tire, and hopefully we start to navigate back. So while we're living on this edge of the bicycle tire, we all want to feel like we're part of something. We all want to feel like we belong. We all want to feel like we matter. And that's what subset communities offer to us. They offer us this opportunity in the midst of feeling separate from most things. These subset communities offer us this chance to come together, to feel the truth of who we are, to feel this core connection, this divinity that resides within each and every one of us. I think it's easy to know when you don't have community. Have you ever had a time in your life when you know something is missing and you realize it's people? I need people. I need a place to be a part of something. I'm feeling like I'm running this rat race alone. I need something. I need something out there. I need my tribe, whatever words we attach to it. I think we've all had a time where we felt that need or that desire. And yet, is that enough? Is that enough? So I'm going to share with you some ideas on maybe what a subset community, the best serving subset communities, have to offer. And then I'm going to share with you 6 communities of life, is what I call them. So if we look at your life, I can tell when I'm working with someone, I can tell immediately what matters to you most. If you give me your finances and your calendar, I can tell you exactly what your priorities are for any one of us. Similarly, if you show me what you're involved in, I can show you, have a good idea how you might be feeling fulfilled in your life or not, based on some of these subset communities that all of us belong to in some form or fashion. So let's dive into that. Gary, can you put that slide up for me, please? Is it up there? There it is, perfect. So on the bottom, I want to start with 3 characteristics. 3 characteristics that make up any great community. And some of the communities, remember these are the smaller ones, some of these communities, maybe you're a part of it and it doesn't give you all 3. That's okay, I'm not telling you to ditch your communities. But take a peek. I'm betting that the communities that serve you well have at least 1, hopefully 2 or 3 of these. The first one we briefly touched on, a sense of belonging. In the work that I do, I work with people from all ages, and what I have found is whether you are 4 or 14 or 34 or 84, we all want to know one thing. We all want to know, do I matter? Do you see me? Does my life mean anything to you? We all want a sense of belonging. We all want to show up and know that we're comfortable there, that this feels good to us. I was talking to someone this morning about Lake Harriet Spiritual Community, and he was sharing how his past had felt a little disconnected in the arenas that he'd shown up in as it relates to spiritual and or religion. But when I found this place, I knew it was home. And I have a feeling that's the same for a few of you. There's something attached to something in the past, and when you find this place, it feels like home. I remember when I signed up for my Kundalini yoga training, I had no idea the craziness that I was getting into. How many of you have ever taken a Kundalini yoga class? So there's some crazy classes out there, right? Like if you've taken them, you know they can be crazy. I signed up for teacher training before I ever took a class. And the class that I took was woo-woo. was a little out there. And I remember as we're going through this posture, I don't remember the actual name of it, but it was like, you're supposed to be bean jump. You're like a bean that's jumping. Not even kidding. And I will not demonstrate that. But imagine, 20 people in this room lying on their backs, and you're like attempting to bounce off the ground like with your back, like a jumping bean. And that was the posture in this Kriya that we were doing for Kundalini Yoga, and I had signed up to teach this stuff. And I remember being my little jumping bean going, what was I thinking? And at the same time, these are my people. Because if you can be a jumping bean with your Kundalini people, there's some sort of sense of belonging, right? And when I got into the training, I knew I was in the right place. I remember sitting there writing on my notepad, I am home. And you know why? Because that training for me was a little closer to the ultimate community of humanity, because that training focused specifically on the yoga of awareness, the yoga of connecting us to our divine truth, to our Satnam. So sense of belonging is the first characteristic. The second one is growth for self or others. Now, what I love about this one is that sometimes we're in communities personally so that we can grow, but sometimes we're in communities so that we can help others grow. And one thing that comes to mind right away for me is there's a young women's group that I'm a part of. It's the Cambridge Ambassador Program, and it's phenomenal. There are over 200 communities across the state of Minnesota that have these weird little festivals. Maybe you've come from those little towns, and they're awesome. They're like corn carnivals and water festivals, and they have these weird representations, and they go around and they're waving in parades, and what's behind all of that is the community supporting these young women to jump in and be their best selves. So while I don't necessarily learn a lot myself when I'm volunteering and supporting those communities, I go because I witness the growth of others. So the second one is growth for yourself or growth for others. And in that one, having the opportunity to share space, witnessing. Have you ever had this where you get to witness others and their growth? It's like real time growing. You're like, pause for just a moment, let me see this. It's so beautiful watching that growth unfold in people and letting them catch a glimpse of what you've seen in them the entire time. And then they finally catch that glimpse as if a mirror passes and glints them right in the eye, and they're, oh. And you're like, oh, I knew all along. I knew you had that all along. Such a powerful community to be a part of, whether you get to be the one growing or you get to support that. And the third one I have up here is purpose or passion. The best example that I can think of for you for this one, I am not a political girl at all. We're going to touch on that because we have 2 days, right? Big thing. Something big is happening in 2 days. That's what they say anyway. So I'm not a political girl at all. And yet, suddenly, after that training that Neil mentioned, this climate leadership reality training, I was in Los Angeles with Vice President Al Gore for 3 days, and it was amazing. And I remember sitting way back, because that's where we were. We were far back in the room, and there was a man on stage talking about some things that we needed to do to help support this along and help move this mission toward healing climate change. And I remember sitting in the back thinking to myself, oh, this means I have to get involved in a bigger way. And I was so angry about it because I was doing my little things to help move things along, But as I listened to him, it was the first time in my life that I realized if you want to be a part of something bigger, you have to get involved in a bigger way. And it was like he pointed me out and he's like, you in the back, I'm talking to you. Because you avoid this, you've avoided it for 42 years, and now it's time to step up. So I'm starting to get involved in this political world and this understanding, even though it feels like it goes against everything inside of me. And yet at the same time, if our arrow is pointing here and the community of humanity is over here, and I'm standing here going, y'all figure it out, that's not okay anymore. So if I want to help move that arrow back this way, I'm going to get involved. And yes, it's growing. Oh man, am I pushing my buttons right now? So it is part of the second one as well. But I got involved initially in that community because of a purpose and a passion, something far bigger that somewhere along the way the divine got a hold of, knowing that I'm willing to sign up for this, even though I didn't know I was willing to sign up for this. And have you ever had that happen, where you're nudged and pushed along, and by grace we learn to know that it's not about us, right? It's not up to me. I promise to follow whatever path is put in front of me. I said that 4.5 years ago. There are days that I regret saying that. Most days not, because most days it turns out far more remarkable than I could ever imagine. So a characteristic of purpose or passion, is there something that you're a part of simply because it's bigger than you and you can't not be a part of it? So if you take a peek at the different communities that you're a part of, I would bet that they carry one of these characteristics, if not 2 or 3. On the communities of life, I have it broken down into 6, we'll call them categories. So these are different categories, and I'm sure that this is not exhaustive. Let's put that out there right away. Not exhaustive, just some food for thought to get us thinking about this whole power of community and what community actually means. So these 6 came forward as I was going through this. The first one is spirituality. Hello, Lake Harriet Spiritual Community. If you're here, you're a part of this community. And I think this speaks to something that we're all yearning and desiring, but sometimes we get lost in how to find it. We get confused in what it means to us. I think this can be a big component of what is our fundamental separation. I think this leads to a lot of separation when at the core of spirituality is our essence. It's all the same at the core of all of the messages. It's all about love. It's all about divine. It's all about that essence, that Satnam, that truth of who we are. And yet we've allowed the differences in how we speak about it or the differences in how it's been interpreted to create that separateness on our wheel. So maybe Lake Harriet Spiritual Community is your community for spirituality. If it's not, take a peek. Do you have a community in your life already where you're feeling fulfilled in this area? We're not going to go through every one of you, but just think on a scale of 1 to 10, how fulfilling is your spiritual community? Does it have one of these 3 characteristics? Do you feel like you're getting out of it what you need to get out of it? And I'm not here to tell you what that means. You know if you're fulfilled or not. If you don't, let's chat, and I'm happy to talk to you about it. The second one, career business. A lot of things in life ebb and flow. Have you noticed that? There's a lot of up and down, a lot of ebb and flow as we move through our life. I used to be a part of a business networking group, and I loved it. I loved showing up every single week, walking in the door, greeting everybody. It was a community that I was excited, like a physical community. We met weekly, and it felt really good until it didn't. And then I would catch myself having to drag myself out of bed forcing myself to get there, walking through the door feeling heavy, and I had to take a good look at how it was serving me. So when I first joined that community, it was a sense of belonging. I was doing some growing in that community, and it felt a little bit purposeful because we were all working towards something bigger in our own businesses. And then eventually, as I started to change, that community stayed the same, and I needed something different for myself, for my business. I needed something different in order to still feel like I belonged. I needed people that talked the same type of language that I talk about, instead of looking at me and saying, what is this whole Satnam thing? Like the core of who you are is what? Jen, we don't get that. Probably in the wrong spot then, for me, in what I was looking for. I needed a new place. I needed to then walk into a place where I could feel a sense of belonging. I could still continue to grow without feeling like I'm being shadowed by people that had no clue what I was talking about. And quite frankly, I had no clue what they were talking about because plumbing, not my specialty. And now, what's really exciting is that there's a new women's group coming together that I get to be a part of. And we're growing that. And it's super fun because it'll feel like a sense of belonging. I can learn and grow while I'm there, and I get to witness these other amazing solopreneur women growing in their business too. And it's something that's purpose and passion filled. So how awesome. Again, the first community, not bad. It's perfect for the people still involved. But is there a time and a place where we need to make change? Potentially. So take a peek in your own life. On a scale of 1 to 10, how does your career and business community look? And if you're an employee, if you work for someone, does that mean you don't need support in this area? Probably not. Probably that's not what that means. It probably still means you need it. My husband works for an organization, and I can tell you full well he needs support. And not just me. He needs people that get it. He needs people that understand it. So what's your career and business community? Does that feel fulfilling to you? Are they offering the characteristics that you need in order to feel the best about it? The third one, health and fitness. I would like to say that I'm a star health and fitness person. That would be a lie. I love food. Anyone else love food? Yes. We're going to lunch after this. You're welcome to join us. I love food, and I have yet to find a fitness community that feels good to me. And what I mean by that is so many people out there have the perfect answer. If you do this, it's going to be great for you. Well, maybe that's your perfect answer. That's not my perfect answer. So be mindful of that. In any of these communities, be careful allowing someone else to tell you what you need. And remember that what I'm sharing with you is just a guideline. I'm not here to tell you exactly what you need. You may look at health and fitness and scratch that one. I don't want any of that. Or you may love all of it. I will tell you that I have very good friends that own a gym, and their health and fitness community to them is the pinnacle of all communities. That they live and breathe their health and fitness community. They've grown this community. They have women and men, and people show up every day of the week to participate and be a part of this. And they live and breathe that. It's their heartbeat is in that community. And then there are people like me that are still searching. And that's okay. I know that this is an area where I need some help. And that just means I get to explore. Because I have yet to find a place where I feel like I belong. And I have the support that I need. So I'm looking. The fourth one, service or volunteer. I love service and volunteering. I love it. I love it. I think it's our responsibility to get lost in the service of others. when I'm working with clients and they ask me, like, Jen, what's the quickest way to shift my energy? If they're like feeling like, wah, wah, you know that feeling, right? Like that heavy, sad feeling. If they're feeling that way and they ask me, Jen, how do I shift my energy? The very first thing I'll say, get in the service of someone else. Because in the service of someone else, I'm not focusing on me. So service and volunteer, what does this mean to you? To us, I'm sure it means very different things. A while back, I used to do some work with Habitat for Humanity. Are you familiar with them? Phenomenal organization. And I used to be their speaker liaison, is what they called me. So I would travel to different organizations and I would share the message of Habitat for Humanity. And I would inspire you to pull out your pocketbook and write a check or come sign up to volunteer. That was my job. And I loved it. And I was good at it because I was passionate about it. So not only did I get to feel a sense of belonging while there, it also allowed me an opportunity to grow, and I was super passionate about it because I watched a mother with 7 children get a new home. And from that moment on, I knew I needed to be a part of something in the form of volunteering, because to watch those babies for the first time, and babies like baby up to 15-year-old, to watch those 7 babies for the first time in their lives walk in through the door of their very own home. I will never forget that feeling. I will remember that forever. It's powerful. And that's through this community of service and volunteering. So where do you go to show up to be part of something bigger than yourself? Are you currently volunteering somewhere? And it doesn't have to be with a name brand organization. Volunteering might be showing up at your elderly neighbor's house and helping rake their leaves, because heaven knows we have a lot of leaves on the ground right now. Volunteering might be showing up to help your neighbor get to the polls on Tuesday, because heaven knows that's important too. Service to others serves 3 people. Serves the person you're serving. That's a given, right? Feels good to them, but who else does it feel good to? Feels good to me. Feels good to the giver. And then a third potential person. It feels good to the onlookers. It feels good to the people that get to witness it. Have you ever had a time where you've witnessed a good act or a good deed, and you're like, oh, that's so nice? Have you ever had that? And then it potentially inspires you to do something like, well, dang it, if she did it, then I should probably do it too. So do you have communities that you're doing this? Do you have ways that you get involved, ways that you're serving others, ways that you're already volunteering? And are they bringing you joy? Time and a place for each of these. And maybe as you grow and shift and change, you need a new outlet or a new opportunity, and that's okay. It's okay to move on. Just recognizing that this is an area that we can really attach to this community. And as we attach to a community like service and volunteering, can you see how that naturally opens your heart in such a bigger way? It's like you're on the fast track from the outside edge of the bicycle wheel into the core. You're on a fast track to get to that love. Because how do we not serve others and feel this deep love? It's a fast track to remember that humanity is our primary community. The next one up here is personal. I'm going to do my best breathing through this and not get emotional about this, because I have a very personal story to share with you. That's why I said I'm going to do my best. I ain't promising anything. I get very passionate when I share with you about things I'm passionate about, as you can tell. So when I walk into an opportunity like this to present on a topic that I'm not really familiar with, I put a lot of energy and time and commitment and dedication to it. Because I want you to walk away with at least one thing, right? That's what a speaker does. If you get one thing, I hope you get 10, but if you get one, then I've done my job, and I can let go of the rest. So when Gary got a hold of me, bless his heart, thank you, Gary. When Gary got a hold of me to present here for the first time, we settled on November. And he said, pick any day you want in November. I'm like, well, I'll just pick the first one. I don't have anything going on. November 4th it is. And in my mind, the small self Jen will say, the ego Jen thought, I've got this down. November equals gratitude, right? November is the month of being thankful. I'm sure that's what the theme will be about. I was convinced. And as a speaker, gratitude is one of my top 3 topics to talk about. I could talk to you all day about gratitude. I love it. Love gratitude. And then he sent me the email back that said, and the theme for the month is the power of community. Oh, not gratitude. Okay. And I do what I do with everything else, and I let go and say, there's a divine reason for this. There's a purpose for this that's greater than I can know at this moment. And if I am given the power of community, then I will follow through on that, and it will be absolutely perfect. So I'm going through this, and I'm putting some thought into it, and just kind of doing what I do with everything. Just put a little thought in, and then just let go and allow. And then put a little more thought in, and just let go and allow, knowing that this isn't my work. This is divine's work. This is love's work. This is God's work. Whatever name you want to use is fine with me. So I put all of this in there, and I'm thinking about it and giving some thought to it and kind of just like letting it go. And this past Monday, my husband came home from work, and I'd had a really hard day. It was one of the hardest days I've had in a long time physically for some health challenges that I'm going through. And yet, alongside that really physically hard, health challenging day was this parallel clarity of this power of community day. And the characteristics unfolded for me, and the little categories, like everything just kind of started popping into place alongside of each other. And that night I went to bed after talking through everything with him, bless his heart. I went to bed and I gave myself a little prayer and just like, give me peace over my body and what I'm experiencing, and bring me peace over this talk, this power of community that, quite frankly, Divine, I have no idea what I'm going to say. And I feel a little bit like a fraud because it's not my topic, but give me peace. I woke up Tuesday morning about 4 o'clock in the morning. 4:14 in the morning, to be exact. And the moment I woke up, if you ever wake up in the morning, pause and listen for a moment, because especially those early morning hours in Kundalini Yoga, we talk about that being the Amrit Vela. That's where the veil is lifted and we have the closest connection. And so I wake up at 4:15 and I lie there for a moment, and all of a sudden I receive like a ton of bricks. You have to reach out to your people and ask for help. Oh. Seriously, are you kidding? That's what you want to tell me at 4:14 in the morning? I don't want to ask for help. But it was persistent. You're talking about the power of community, and you're not going to be willing to back up and ask for help from your most personal community? If they're not there for that, what are they there for? So before I could give it too much thought and rationalize my way out of it, I sat down at my computer and I made a list of 20 people. These 20 people are some of the most dear to me, some family, some friends, some that might feel like they're on the skirts of my life, but to me they mean the world. And I reached out and I explained. And I told things that some of them didn't know. Most of them had no idea the depth of the struggle that I'd been having. And in the moment I pushed send after wavering for about 2 hours, the moment I pushed send, I could feel my body soften. The moment I pushed send, I could feel this warmth kind of wash over me, knowing thy will be done. And in that moment, the moment of send, coupled with the moment I received a text from my friend Kelly. Kelly's in Scotland. There is no way Kelly read the email the moment she sent the text. And yet I got this text from Kelly that said, Jen, I just saw this in Scotland. I thought of you. I had to send it. And it was a picture of cobblestone hearts. Message clear. Ask for help. Do you have a personal community? And I would argue that this community, they're not always in proximity. To me, community does not equal proximity. Do you have people that you can reach out to in the drop of a hat and say, I need help? Whether it's a prayer or a kind word, send me a funny dog picture, anything, let me know that you're here. And in that moment of asking for help, it rushes in. Kelly is still in Scotland. I don't know if she's read the email yet or not. But what are the chances that we don't open ourselves up to that? Is it possible that wouldn't have even come through? I think it is. I think it's in the asking that we receive. And when we show up and recognize the power of the community that's around us, we can receive these greatest blessings. A good friend of mine, she has 2 young kids, and she sent me a video just the other day, in fact, of her little boy praying for Jenny. Oh, so sweet. But she sent me this text right away, and she said something along the lines of, mad props to you for reaching out. That takes guts. It's brave to do that. And then she went on to say, sometimes we have to remember that serving others is giving them the opportunity to serve. Wow. And then she sent me another text and said, if that didn't make sense, just know that you blessed me by asking me to help you. Because I'm so good at wanting to bless everybody else. Can we allow ourselves to receive that blessing as well? So find your people. Could be my humans, could be my tribe, could be my people, could be whatever you want to call them. I don't care. Do you have a personal community? People that you have a sense of belonging with, people that will help you to grow, people that you get to help grow. And the last one, continued learning. Continued learning can mean a couple things, but the thing that I want us to think about most, this one, in my research also known as go to Facebook and ask people what they think, right? In my research, this came up, not in this exact way, but I had a good friend of mine that said, Jen, I think that part of the communities that we need to do more and get more involved with are the people that don't look like us, are the people that we don't normally sit next to, are the people that we normally don't have anything in common with. These are the people that I think we need to get to know better. And I think he's right. Because I imagine if I'm in a room with 100 people and none of them look like me or have past like me or have culture like I was raised, I imagine that is going to be a fast track also to that center, that primary community of humanity. because we have gotten so used to surrounding ourselves with people that make us feel comfortable and safe and grounded and secure. And because we've surrounded ourselves with those people, not on purpose and not because we're mean people, I don't believe, but because it's a natural byproduct, because we're surrounding ourselves with these people, we naturally push these people to the edge. And we don't allow that connection to come forward. So do you have a community that requires you to continue learning? To continue learning, to continue expanding, to continue being open to the others that are out there that are not like you? Because I tell you what, you might not feel a sense of belonging right away, but the growth and the opportunity for you to step into love is going to be huge. Writer Kurt Vonnegut says, "What should young people do with their lives today? Many things, obviously, but the most daring thing is to create stable communities in which the terrible disease of loneliness can be cured." That is our job. That is our responsibility. That is our role. How many people out there today are feeling lonely, and we can help that if we allow ourselves to look beyond ourselves. I invite you to take a peek at your communities. Take a peek at the characteristics. If you want a copy of this, I have an email sign up out there. I'll send you a copy of this. If you want to chat after about the power of community, I will be here until you leave. I would love to chat with you about it. I'm going to leave you with one final quote and one final thought. Told you I'm not going political on you today, but I am a little bit. Because I feel like I'd be remiss not to make mention of 2 days from now. And I'm not telling you who to vote for or what to do or how to do it, because that's for you. But what I am going to tell you is if our arrow is over here and the community of humanity is over here, what decisions can we make together that will lean us in this direction? I want you to consider that for Tuesday, and I'll leave you with this quote by Marianne Williamson. "In every community, there is work to be done. In every nation, there are wounds to heal. In every heart, there is the power to do it." Because the truth of who we are is love. And if we choose to show up from that center of the bicycle wheel, we are choosing to show up from a place of love. And we have the heart to make the change that we truly deserve and desire. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. We'll take a moment if you want to bow your heads in some words to divine love, spirit, universe, God. May we be blessed this day and always. May we always know the power of community. May we understand and appreciate our role within community. May we come from a place of love. May our hearts be opened to receiving, to understanding, to compassion, to connection. Will you join me together in a Sat Nam? We'll do a long Sat and a short Nam. Inhale for Sat. Sat Nam. May you be blessed this day and always as you move forward with divine love and grace. Many, many blessings. Sat Nam. Woohoo!